As the opening day of the Premier League season gets closer and closer, Daniel Levy seems no nearer to opening his checkbook. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace are looking to tie down Spurs' number one target to a new contract. Saudi Arabia are about to bid for Tottenham's number 9, and Manchester City are looking to snare the second player on the list of forwards that Spurs want to buy. Is it actually time to listen to the Levy out brigade? Why is everything happening so slowly? And can Big Ange be expected to improve from last season with just 2 kids having been brought through the door? All this and more on today's daily Premier League transfer news with me, Barnaby Slater. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. As ever, please do press that like button. Please do press subscribe. I'm on the hunt to get to 20,000 subscribers now. So if you're not a subscriber and you like daily content concentrating on Spurs first and then also transfer news from all around the Premier League, do press that subscribe button. And you can be a member, only £1 a month. All the details in the description box below. But let's get started. Crystal Palace are apparently desperate to tie down Eberechi Eze to a new contract. And that is because they want to fend off the interest in him from Tottenham Hotspur. Eze only signed his new latest deal at Selhurst Park in November 2023. But his release clause of £60 million plus add-ons is attracting interest from both Tottenham and now Liverpool, apparently. Well, like I said at the top, is it time to get frustrated with Tottenham and how slowly they are trying to do their deals, particularly the incomings? I've said all summer, I think Spurs are trying to get all their ducks in a row. They're trying to get all of the dead wood out, and I'll talk more in this episode about the likelihood of Royal finally leaving the club. The fact that Giovanni Lo Celso is back in training at the club when we know that he is not somebody that Ange wants to keep, mainly because of the amount of minutes that he gets on the pitch. He gets injured far too often. I'll also be talking about Alejo Valise. It looks like he's having another loan out to Spain. So the fact is we're trying to get rid of the players that Ange doesn't want in, but can we afford to wait any longer before pulling the trigger on our marquee signings? With Eberechi Eze, I have to say I've kind of stuck up for Spurs so far. I really have. I've stuck up for Levy and Spurs because I'd say, well, he was at the Euros, so he won't have missed any training. But this week, Romero is back, Bentancur is back, Mickey van der Ven is back, and like I said, Giovanni Lo Celso is back. So if Spurs had pulled the trigger on this deal and activated that £60 million release clause for Eberechi Eze, then he would now be in the building and learning Ange's ways, learning his system. And I have to say, it is a bit of a worry now that Manchester City have sold Julian Alvarez. Will they start sniffing about Eberechi Eze? I'll talk more in a little bit about how they're already sniffing about our second player that we want to get on our list. So yeah, I have to say I am starting to worry a little bit. It's, what is it? You know, a week and a half now until the first day of the season. I know the transfer window doesn't end till the beginning of September. But if Spurs were to miss out on all of their potential big signings who they want to get in to actually improve the first team straight away, then I think the fan base will go ballistic. Meanwhile, Tottenham apparently expecting a huge bid from Saudi Arabia, from the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia in the next few days for Richarlison. The forward has apparently been offered a significant increase on his personal terms, on his weekly wage by Saudi Arabia, and he is now considering his options. Let me know in the comments, do you want Saudi Arabia to come in for Richarlison? Do you want Richarlison to leave the club? Do you not think, as many don't, that he is a natural number 9 for Ange Postecoglou? And if so, which of, realistically, I think we're looking at Ivan Toney, Victor Gyökeres, or, of course, any other number 9 possibilities do you want to come in? Dominic Solanke is, of course, the latest one being talked about. Or is there anybody else who you think Spurs should be sniffing about as a number 9? What I will say about Johan Lange and Ange Postecoglou and signings recently, if you look back to the Timo Werner loan, they've pretty much all been quite surprising, the signings, maybe even apart from maybe Maddison last summer. So is there somebody else, another number 9 in world or European football or the Premier League, that you could see maybe Tottenham surprisingly going for to replace Richarlison if he does go to Saudi Arabia? Meanwhile, as I mentioned, Man City sniffing around one of our other targets, Pedro Neto, according to the Telegraph, is now a player of interest to Manchester City. I did read some interesting quotes from some Wolves fans yesterday who did a Spurs podcast saying that really Pedro Neto is an unbelievable talent, but for 50% of the time that he's been at Wolves, which is a good few years now, he has not been available to the club. You've got to surely say that Tottenham's recruitment side, that Ange Postecoglou will look at that and say that is too much of a risk to take for a player who you would be paying upwards of 40 or 50 million pounds for. Think how frustrating it would be if we bought him and there was a big fanfare and then he got injured straight away. This Emerson Royal saga is the story that just won't go away, isn't it? But however, according to Fabrizio Romano, AC Milan are confident to close Royal's signing very, very soon, potentially today. They're having meetings this morning. I'm filming this around 10 o'clock, 10:30. The meeting may even be going on now. A final round of talks to close the deal, 15 million euros plus add-ons, and Emerson Royal is pushing hard for that deal to happen. Well, that's not a huge surprise because Emerson Royal has somehow got the best agent in town. He went from Barcelona to Tottenham Hotspur and now to AC Milan. Two, at least, of those clubs are absolutely enormous in European football, and Spurs reached a Champions League final 5 years ago. And Emerson Royal, bless him, nice guy, really works hard on his game, but is not a top defender. He is a good defender, and he is not great going forward. So if he gets that move, good for him, and I'm not surprised that he is pushing for it. Meanwhile, a player that we were linked with earlier this week, Leicester are now rivaling Serie A clubs for Reims midfielder Amir Richardson. The Moroccan international who's been at the Olympics, and they were defeated Morocco 2-1 in the semi-final of the Olympics against Spain. But Spurs and Leicester are the clubs who are closely tracking his progress and considering a move. Reims value Richardson in the region of £13 million. There are also a few Serie A clubs interested as well. As I said, news this morning that Tottenham are signing all the documents right now for Alejo Valise to join Espanyol on loan. No buy option included. Back at Spurs next June because they see him as an important player for the future. I have to say, I don't really understand at this point, and let me know in the comments if you think differently, because of course football is all about subjective opinions, but I don't really understand why Spurs spent nearly £10 million on Alejo Valise. He hasn't showed me enough in the few minutes that he's had that he has got really what it takes to fit into Ange's system. He looks more like kind of an old school, old-fashioned number 9. Like, he does work hard, he runs about, and I get it. He's very young, so he may well improve, and I hope to be proven wrong. But I do really wonder about this player because, we brought him in on big money and straight away he went on loan to Seville, didn't get a single minute. Now he's going to Espanyol, who I suppose are a smaller team than Seville, so you'd hope that he'll get more minutes. And I'd love him to go there and score lots of goals in Spain, but he just looks raw to me. He really does. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem likely to me that at any point soon he's either going to get into the first team at Tottenham or that he'll likely get his money back for the club. I don't know. Maybe he is a bit of a victim because of all of the upheaval there's been in the Tottenham recruitment department over the past kind of 18 months. And maybe Valise is just kind of like the last remnants of a player who was brought in having been scouted previously, and therefore is a little bit in between systems and in between projects. I don't know. Let me know what you think about Valise. Feel free to tell me that I'm completely wrong in the comments and we'll have a little chat about it. Meanwhile, the final part of the brilliant Alistair Gold interview with Ange Postecoglou concentrates on Ange's thoughts on how he goes about selecting new signings. So I thought it's very much relevant to what I'm talking about today. One of the best things for me is how Ange Postecoglou is very sure about whether he wants a player to come in or not based on conversations he has with them. And they don't have to be long conversations, but he talks about it here, so I thought worth giving you the quotes. He says the following: "Some of it is just maturity. It's how the conversation goes. Really, I'm a big one on players who are really excited to join the club. You might think that should be a given, but it's not always the case. Sometimes, and rightly so, players go, oh, I've got other options. And they do. The kind of players we're looking at, they've got other options. It might be better financial conditions or a different competition or a bigger club in their mind, whatever it is." For me, I don't know what you guys think, but for me, that is a little bit of a, I don't know. I think he's talking about Ivan Toney there. I do, because if you remember, all the reports came out a month or so ago that Ivan Toney had spoken to Mikel Arteta back in February or March because Arsenal were interested in taking him, and Arteta pulled the plug because he said he didn't like his attitude. And I wonder if Ange Postecoglou has had a chat with Ivan Toney, who he wanted to get in as the potential number 9, and Toney was kind of trying to big up his own negotiating position, saying I've got other options, and Ange doesn't like it. He goes on, if you're having a conversation that's going that way, it kind of tells me that I've got to really figure out why this person wants to come to us. What's the underlying reason? Where if you get that sense, and I've had it with most of the guys we've signed, yeah, I just want to sign for Tottenham, buzzing, can't wait to get started. That's a good starting point for me, because you know you've got someone who, from the day he signs, is all in on the club for the right reasons, you know. Now listen, I know, as I mentioned at the top, a lot of fans getting incredibly frustrated with how slow it's being in the transfer market this summer. One thing I would say, it's slow for a lot of the Premier League, and not a lot of the Premier League doing a lot of buying at the moment. Aston Villa are kind of an outlier. Man United have bought a few in. Arsenal have got one and maybe getting a second one in soon. But it is a very difficult market, and that is because of the profit and sustainability rules situation. A lot of clubs unwilling to kind of go big like they would previously have done because they know they might be dealt with in terms of points deductions. However, with Spurs, I think it also adds on another element, what Ange is saying here, which is he doesn't want players coming in who he doesn't think are going to be 100% into it. And I have to say, I like Gio Lo Celso as a player, but I think he is a good example of this. I don't think Lo Celso, since he's come to Spurs, has been 100% in, and he gets injured far too often. And I would suggest, and look, I don't have direct evidence to back this up, but I would suggest, based on the fact that he's always fit for Argentina, but he's often on the treatment table for Spurs, maybe he makes the most of some of those smaller injuries. I think what Ange is saying here is he doesn't want players coming through the door anymore who are going to be like that. He wants players who are all in, who are buzzing to play for the club, and who will always try and play when they are fit, or if they've got a small little knock that they have to fight through. And I'm with Ange Postecoglou on this one. I think it's vital in terms of getting together a united squad, a hungry squad, who are going to try and grow together to try and win things for Tottenham Hotspur. Let me know what you think. He goes on anyway. They've come to Tottenham, and that was their choice. And he's talking still about potential new incomings. It wasn't because we gave them more money or it's whatever other reason. Beyond that, it's that intuitive thing of just trying everything to get an understanding of what the motivations are and what kind of person they are. It's not an exact science, and you get these things wrong. But usually, when I've walked away with a really good feeling about the conversation, it kind of gives me the confidence to say, well, okay, we can push on. Like I said, I love this from Ange Postecoglou. I think it makes sense, and I think it's one of those things where a lot of us who've played kind of football management games down the years, we just think it's as simple as, you know, get the bid agreed by the club, get the personal terms agreed by the player, and that's it. But football management games do not cover this kind of emotional maturity and mentality side of things with players, where I think it's absolutely right, where you should only go for players who want to be part of this project, who want to grow with the club, and who want to do it for the right reasons. And we've finally got a manager in place who realises how important that is. So, as I mentioned at the top, you know, is it time to start listening to the ENIC Out Brigade? I'm asking you guys a question. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I would say that actually this is the right policy for Spurs to not just pull the trigger on any old player, but to wait for the right players who have not only the attributes on the pitch for the style and the system that Ange wants to play, but also the mentality and the motivation and the commitment off the pitch to be at the club for the right reasons and to want to grow properly with this project. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Meanwhile, Ange was also asked by Ali Gold, and once again, if you don't follow Ali Gold on Twitter, make sure you do, and also subscribe to his YouTube channel. He gives these great weekly long-form updates on Tottenham Hotspur. I think they're usually on Sunday nights. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's just reached 60,000 subscribers. Good for him. In the next part of his interview, he asked Ange on about how he feels about getting teams to where he wants to be, and Ange said the following: "These are the things you look at, and it's more of a real buying into it. Some of these things are tangible. The way we play is very demanding, and you're looking for how much do you really have to push them. And the less you feel you need to push them, the more you know they're actually buying into it. Some of it is just the way they talk and their behaviour around the place. I'm kind of looking at just the way they're embracing what we're trying to do from a football perspective, but also beyond that in terms of mindset. You need to have a certain kind of mindset and a certain bravery to do what we do. It's a fine line between somebody doing what they're told and somebody doing something that they believe in. As managers, particularly in the initial period, we have a fair bit of power and influence to say, well, we'll do this my way. And for the most part, players will do that. But then that wears off because eventually they'll want to see some fruits for their labour and see how it develops. So it's about, are they doing it because I'm telling them, or are they doing it because they really believe and understand what we're doing? You can see that growth. I've been doing it for a long time, so I really feel last year we laid some strong foundations in terms of some underlying core values that I saw from the first day we got back into pre-season. And now it's about building on that. So a lot of people in my comments are actually saying now that they don't believe in Ange Postecoglou's philosophy or his system or his tactics. And I personally am not one of those people. I think absolutely what he's saying here is what I've thought is going on the whole time, which is that last season, that first season, was about instilling that mentality into the club almost, not only just into the team, but into the club, where it's about, you know, are you going to believe in us now being an attacking team, a brave team, a committed team who are going to do things that maybe other players and other fans and other clubs and pundits will look at as a bit odd. Like that Chelsea game is a perfect example. Going down to 9 men, but still playing that high line and still pushing forward. And that, as a result, was what nearly got us a draw in that game. Sure, we conceded 2-3 late goals, and as a result, we lost 4-1. But we nearly got a draw with 9 men against one of our biggest rivals because we were completely committed. And what he's saying here is, it's all about the players totally buying into this philosophy. And I personally think the players do. I think the fans do in the most part. I think at the stadium, they're loving it. You know, it's a dance party. It's a club every time we win at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium now. And that's because they're enjoying going there. They don't mind spending what are, in essence, the most expensive prices in the league to go and watch Tottenham. They don't mind it as much anymore because it's enjoyable. It's actually fun to watch. There are lots of goals, lots of entertainment, and that is what football should all be about. So I, for one, am with Ange. I think he's right, and I think when he gets the players through the door who he knows have the motivation to play for him, to play for the club, and they have the right attributes to play in this system, then we will keep growing, we will keep improving, and we will be incredibly hard to beat. But like I said, football is subjective. You're allowed your own views. So let me know in the comments what you think. I'm sure I'll get a few people describing me as a happy clapper or whatever. Meanwhile, with the Bayern Munich second friendly coming up this Saturday, Bayern Munich director Max Eberl said the following about Harry Kane's involvement. Harry Kane is coming back in the middle of the week, so that's likely to be today for pre-season training. Of course, he will fly to London with us at the weekend because in some way it's his game too. And then we will prepare him step by step, play in the German Cup and have him ready for the Bundesliga. Of course, this is the second game against Bayern Munich we'll play in a week, but that first game was just coincidental as part of the Asian tour. This is the game that was put in place because of Harry Kane's move to Bayern Munich, and unfortunately I won't be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to watch it, but this I think will be a good chance for the club and the fans to say goodbye to Harry Kane properly, because we didn't know for sure in his last game just about a year ago against Shakhtar Donetsk that he would leave, and so we weren't able to give him that goodbye. But I think get behind him, the club's highest ever player, a generational player. He really was unbelievable for us, and I would not be surprised if he was back at the club in a few years, maybe as a player, but certainly in some capacity. But give him, if you're going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday, make sure you give him an amazing reaction and huge round of applause, etc. Meanwhile, Tottenham have agreed their first professional deal with Mikey Moore, which will be finalised on Sunday, his 17th birthday, the day after that Bayern Munich that Bayern Munich friendly. It is more money on this contract than Spurs have ever offered a 17-year-old before. However, it's only a 3-year deal. I think there may be some kind of politics around how long you're allowed to offer 17-year-olds. But also, I don't mind that it's only 3 years, because it's important that even though Mikey Moore will earn a lot of money, that he keeps his feet on the ground. He's undoubtedly a brilliant talent, but he needs to remain humble and keep his feet on the ground. Ange Postecoglou has confirmed that Destiny Udogie is now back in full training, and Richarlison will return to full training this week. Meanwhile, some other news from over in South Korea. Yang Min-hyuk, our new signing who will join us in January, is currently taking English classes offered by his club, Gangwon FC. I love that. South Koreans, oh my God, just so... they've got such manners. They're so positive and so polite. I love that. And finally, in terms of Tottenham news, we've reached agreement with Liga Football 2, second division in Portugal's side Firenze, for the transfer of our academy graduate Niall John. Niall John, quite highly rated amongst fans and podcasters who've seen a lot from the academy, but I think important to move these players on, give them a chance at proper men's first team football, and I'm sure there'll be some kind of buy-on clause for Tottenham there, as there was with the likes of Marcus Edwards. Before I go on to other Premier League transfer news, guys, please once again press that like button, and if you're not a subscriber already, please do press subscribe. Trying to get my way to 20,000 subscribers. Daily content about all transfers across the Premier League, but always with a Tottenham Hotspur bent first. Okay, let's move on to Manchester United. Despite the fact that Erik ten Hag has brought Jadon Sancho back into the fold, they apologise to one another. He is apparently getting closer and closer to a move to Paris Saint-Germain, and that is after his impressive performances for Borussia Dortmund on loan last season that got them to a Champions League final. Meanwhile, Denzel Dumfries is keen on joining Manchester United from Inter Milan, but it's only possible if Aaron Wan-Bissaka rejects going to West Ham, and Inter are keen to get him in on a swap deal. At present, according to David Ornstein, Manchester United prefer Bayern Munich's Mazraoui as a right-back to Denzel Dumfries. So a little bit of a love triangle there for right-backs at Manchester United. Rumours yesterday that Man United back in for Youssouf Fofana. Milan have yet to close a deal with AS Monaco. Fofana wants to go to Milan, who are Monaco are demanding 30 million euros. Fofana has agreed verbally with Milan, but Manchester United are sniffing in for him. Meanwhile, an interesting rumour for Man United yesterday was that they are looking at Burnley's Norwegian international Sander Berge after they've turned their attentions away from Paris Saint-Germain's Manuel Ugarte. However, apparently the Championship side, who obviously got relegated from the Premier League last season, Burnley, they are looking for up to £30 million for Sander Berge. I think that is an unlikely amount of money that a Championship midfielder will get. Man United are looking at other midfield options, though, not limited to Sander Berge, but also Richard Rios and Zubimendi. The possible return of Sofiane Amrabat cannot be ruled out either. Apparently, Ugarte interest not totally dead, Paris Saint-Germain's Ugarte, but they are looking for £60 million and or €60 million, and Man United will not pay it. And finally, in terms of Man United, Antony has emerged as another target for the Public Investment Fund in Saudi Arabia, who would like him to go to Al Nassr. United are willing to sell him, that's according to Sky Sports, but they don't want to make too much of a loss on him, but that seems unlikely considering they paid £80 million for him. Unbelievable signing. West Ham have completed the signing of Argentinian international and World Cup winner Guido Rodriguez. Meanwhile, they could rival Brighton for the signing of Mats Hummels, who's available on a free. That's according to Sky Germany's Florian Pletterberg. Brighton have made contact with the former Germany defender, but West Ham also monitoring him. He's 35 years old now. He is looking at potential clubs, but also hasn't ruled out retirement. Over to South London now, and Arsenal, they remain in the race for Napoli's Nigerian forward Victor Osimhen, despite strong interest from Paris Saint-Germain. Listen, Spurs fans, I think Victor Osimhen is a brilliant example of how slow the market is this summer. Everybody knows that Victor Osimhen wants to leave Napoli. Everyone knows that Napoli want to get money in for Victor Osimhen. Antonio Conte, their new manager, he wants Lukaku in instead. So Osimhen, who is one of the world's top number 9s, available if the money is available to be put down. But a lot of the big clubs in the world have their number 9s sorted. Real Madrid have just bought Mbappe. Bayern Munich have Harry Kane. Manchester United obviously have Højlund, sorry. Man City obviously have Erling Haaland. So really, these big clubs in the world, and also if you look at Barcelona, they can't afford to buy a huge number 9. So the big clubs are absolutely sorted for number 9s. So it could be that a club towards the end of the transfer window, someone like a Spurs or someone like a Liverpool, if they were looking to replace Darwin Núñez, could go in for Victor Osimhen later in the window. I wonder if he would be willing to go to a not kind of Champions League club like Spurs later in the window. I wonder if Tottenham kind of have that on their mind. I've listened to a few podcasts, and I've been listening to find out whether Osimhen's wages would be far too much for Spurs to pay, but they kind of think that maybe it would be around 250 grand a week, and I wonder if that is something that if we cleared the decks of the deadwood, whether Spurs would be willing to do. But anyway, Arsenal apparently remain interested in him, and of course, Gabriel Jesus is really their current number 9. They sometimes play Kai Havertz there, so maybe they would be looking at Victor Osimhen as well. and that's certainly what Gianluca Di Marzio is currently saying. Meanwhile, as explained yesterday, it looks finally like the Omeridian, Conor Gallagher and Julian Alvarez deal is finally going through. We've got the here we go. So £81 million to Man City, £35 million to Chelsea, and then Chelsea will get Omeridian in from Atletico Madrid. Chelsea buying their 9 millionth player of the summer. Meanwhile, Barcelona have got Dani Olmo in. His private flight landed yesterday. He's buzzing to join Barcelona apparently. And Bayern Munich are apparently open to a loan deal for Kingsley Coman this summer with an option or an obligation to buy. Is Kingsley Coman the kind of player who could come to the Premier League this season? Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. As I said earlier, please do press that like button if you haven't already. It really helps the video get up the algorithm and seen by more people. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do press subscribe for daily content about all the transfers this summer and Tottenham Hotspur news and news from across the Premier League. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much. Please do spread the word to your friends and family if you think they'd like this content. Trying to get to 20,000, and you can become a member. Just £1 a month really helps support me to make this daily content for you. All the details in the description box below. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Cheers.